to me, this deal isn't just about the 2023 playoffs. It's about Anthony Edwards growing into the prime of his career and becoming the player that you hope he becomes as a number one pick. To me, Chris, this is a bet on Anthony Edwards. That's what this is. This is a bet on your 20-year-old superstar still on his rookie contract, and you're trying to win games with him now. To me, that's what this is about. And I know with Rudy Gobert, you say the $47 million, which isn't until 25, 26. He's making 38 this coming season. But like that deal for Gobert expires in 2026. At that point, with Anthony Edwards, it's just going to be year 2 of his rookie max extension. So like, it's not like this is limiting you for a decade.
Well, you got Cat's thing too.
It can accelerate things quicker. Yeah, Cat you do have in 2024. So
right.
What I'm saying is like, to me, this is a bet on the youth of this team. With what we saw from Anthony Edwards in the playoffs against Memphis, didn't that look like a guy to you that is a prime candidate to take a leap this year to go from, really nice 21 point per game guy?
No, and that's my thing on this. I love Edwards.
Yeah.
I would.
Don't you want to give him a chance to win?
I would be building with him in mind. I'd love to think that this is all about basketball. I just don't believe that. I just don't. I'm talking about the way it all fits.
You think it's an ownership splash?
Yeah, I think this is Glenn Taylor's got a year or 2 left. He wants to win. The new guys want to win. They want to show off the new Ferrari. So you got new owners that want to win. They got a real weird deal going on there, right? Where the transfer of power doesn't take place. So you got the end of Glenn Taylor, the beginning of the new guys, and a new GM that came in that wants to have his own team. He don't want to live off of what was already built. Every GM wants their own thing that they're responsible for. I did that. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I think that's what all adds up to how this happens, right? And that if you were in a different place with ownership, with management, let's say Gerson Rosas never gets in trouble. Let's say, that the A-Rod deal, maybe it's a couple years out, or maybe the transfer of power has already taken place. I think that you've got a lot of extenuating circumstances beyond just sitting at a table and going, what's best for my 20-year-old budding star? This is, we want to win now. And that's the question, Kevin. Did this trade just put you directly in the middle? You are going to be good. Make no mistake about it. You're going to be good. And there's a level of competency that they want to reach. I was listening to my buddy John Krasinski. He went on with Zach Love. They have never been good 3 years in a row.
They're about to be. They're about to be.
At this point, yeah, just being good. And you are always one that only cares about championships.
Yep. And I think Rudy Gobert is a championship player.
Oh, come on. He's not a second-round player. He got beat with a team without Kawhi Leonard and then got beat with a team without Luka Doncic.
Yeah, but like it's the Jazz got beat, not just Rudy Gobert.
But
it's not an individual game.
First or second best player in your mind?
Yeah, of course. But like it's
then it has to lay on him.
Of course it's on him. And of course he has limitations too.
We don't sit there and say Peyton Manning got beat. We say the Broncos got beat.
You're right. Like by the way, it's different with a quarterback with how important they are to their team. But like with Gobert, he does have limitations. I feel like it's obvious. People know his limitations. We know he's not he can't do anything on the perimeter offensively. He's not a shooter, not a ball handler. He shoots below 50% when he dribbles more than once. Gobert has limitations.
So how's he a championship player?
Because of what he provides on defense. And now it's in a situation where he actually has some backline support on defense. Jaden McDaniels, Kyle Anderson, Karl Anthony Towns. Even D'Lo last year was good in help in the situation they used him in roaming off ball last year. The team has actual pieces on defense to help mitigate if he's switched onto the perimeter in the pick and roll like he often was in Utah. And behind him is Joe Ingles and Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley and a bunch of smaller defenders or ineffective defenders, Jordan Clarkson. Minnesota has such better personnel where if Gobert's on the perimeter, you're okay with it because Gobert has become individually a good perimeter defender as a 7-footer. He's not some stopper. He's not even he's not even Jared Vanderbilt on the perimeter.
I don't know, man. I thought maybe I'm just wrong. I thought Beverly and Vanderbilt were both outstanding defenders,
but they're not Rudy Gobert.
All right. Well, all I know is when
Rudy Gobert.
Memphis lost because they weren't good enough. But I mean, John Morant was scoring 50 points against Utah. Minnesota made Morant look as bad as he's ever looked last year with their personnel. I mean, these are the kind of guys that you have to deal with when you get to the playoffs. I watched him score 50 points or 47 against Utah, most of which were in the paint while Rudy Gobert was playing. And then the next year, I mean, he was struggling against Minnesota. Minnesota did not have some kind of terrible defense. And in fact, their point of attack defense was pretty damn good. And both they had some deficiencies, but I thought Beverly and Vanderbilt were both good defenders. Really good. You know what I mean? And again, it all just kind of fit, with their stars and their role players and a pecking order to me.
And by the way, Minnesota played drop against Ja.
No, they played almost every single time he was seeing a second guy by the time he would get to the elbow.
And
that's not drop. And they're not all the way. Nobody was standing in front of the basket.
And to be fair, they did mix it up. They played a little drop. They switched some. They blitzed some. They did switch up their defense a lot against Ja.
He saw two guys all the time.
But that's what I'm saying, Chris. Like, they still retain that flexibility. Except now it's with Rudy Gobert. They still have that flexibility in terms of the types of defense that they can play, the types of lineups that they can put on the floor. Now with Gobert, like you talk about needing to finish with him in Utah, that was the case in Utah. They didn't have anybody behind him you could rely on. With Minnesota, now sometimes you can go with a Cat McDaniels front court. Sometimes you can go with Gobert, Cat, McDaniels with jumbo-sized lineups. You can play smaller. You can play bigger. I'm excited to see the way Finch is going to use different types of lineups and how that's going to dictate the types of scheme that they use.
Do you think that deal ensures you getting to the second round of the playoffs?
I have no idea. I can't make
then
those.
How can you give up 5?
Yeah, but like picks? It doesn't. Nothing assures.
Bro, if
anything.
I'm giving up 5 first-round picks, I better be competing for a title.
Nothing assures anything, Chris, in this loaded league right now. I mean, like if you're Minnesota, you just might get the Warriors in the first round. Like I don't know who they're going to face in the first round of the playoffs. I can't make that prediction on paper. Yeah, Minnesota's equipped to go to the second round with the team that they have, but that also requires further improvement from Anthony Edwards. Like to me, this deal isn't just about the 2023 playoffs. It's about Anthony Edwards growing into the prime of his career and becoming the player that you hope he becomes as the number one pick by maybe this season, maybe next year. But to me, it's about Anthony Edwards more than anything else and a big bet on him and the player that he can become. That's the way I look at it. It's a bet on Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, and I look at it completely differently. I think this is not a bet on him because that is not the proper fit.
And you look at more of an ownership flex.
Yeah, and I just don't think that's the most natural basketball fit. If I got Anthony Edwards, I'm trying to create the maximum amount of space. That's what I'm trying to do. And so, fine, if you want to say, well, Vanderbilt didn't do that, fine. Then chuck out Vanderbilt. Find you another guy that can pop threes, that is going to be honored 25 feet away from the basket. Because I'm telling you this, can't nobody stay in front of that guy. Nobody.
The spacing isn't always what the Rockets did. Sometimes it's having, a screen and roller like Gobert, who's forcing defenders to collapse inside, and that's opening up kick-out passes, and kick-out passes are opening up spot-up threes or drive and kick opportunities, shots at the rim. That's I think the Gobert factor, again, like the versatility on defense we're talking about applies on offense in the sense that sometimes you'll have Gobert just hanging around the dunker spot. Sometimes he's going to be off the floor and you're going to be going with the 5-out spacing lineups. But that's the benefit of the amount of options that you have on the roster in that front court. Like like Gobert has never had teammates with size like he will have in Minnesota. Like Finch is going to be able to get.
For a reason.
Why is that?
Because it's too big in this day and age in the NBA. One of them gets played off the court.
But Boston just went to the NBA Finals with Al Horford and Robert Williams.
Right, and a lot of times they couldn't. By the time it got to the highest level, they couldn't play them together.
Next year, Milwaukee could be back there with rolling out Brook Lopez with Giannis. They could throw out a 3 big lineup sometimes. Like you don't like just.
And they had to bail for Portis. I mean, we can go through this all across the board. You know, where it's like by the time you get to the playoffs, it's really hard. It's really hard to play too.